Dixie, come and sit in the middle. Dixie, come. Okay, sit. No, stop. Go back. Go back. Dixie, in the middle. No, come. Wes Anderson puts his subjects in the middle. Come on, Dixie, come. Now stay. No, Dixie, that's not how Wes Anderson does it. Dixie, come. Dixie, no, come in the middle, and just stay.
I'm going down to the railway station, gonna get a ticket to ride.
Hello and welcome to Quick Flick. Today we're going to be talking about the new Wes Anderson movie, I Love Dogs. You might think that I just said I Love Dogs. That's not the name of the movie. It's not I Love Dogs. It's Isle of Dogs. And this is a very intentional thing done by Wes Anderson because he's the coolest guy ever. Wes Anderson was the director of critically acclaimed movies such as Grand Budapest Hotel, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, Rushmore, and Moonrise Kingdom. You might know him from any of those movies. He was born in Texas and then moved to Paris because he's a man of culture, he's a gentleman, and he's a scholar. Known for his aesthetically pleasing shots and editing, Wes Anderson gains his spot on my list of directors that I love, number 3, right under Stanley Kubrick and Quentin Tarantino. He truly is just the master of giving viewers what they want in terms visually and emotionally. Besides the world of live-action movies that Wes Anderson creates, he also does great animated films such as this one and The Fantastic Mr. Fox. He has such a way of bringing all of the elements that make his live-action movies so good and just seamlessly transferring them over into animation. And that brings us away from all those movies and praising him to this one, Isle of Dogs. Being directed by Wes Anderson, as I mentioned many times already, Isle of Dogs is so perfectly shot and edited and animated that it's really hard to put into words. The animation is so incredibly detailed and smooth, and not that Fantastic Mr. Fox wasn't, but Isle of Dogs is so much of an improvement over Fantastic Mr. Fox's animation. All of the characters' emotions are so prominently displayed, which is something so key in animation that a lot of movies miss, and that's why I don't like so many animation studios that just don't put in effort, such as Illumination is the main one. They reuse character models for movies, and they just, like, everything looks bad. Everything looks bad in Illumination's animation because it's just kind of just gross to look at. And that's why I really, really get uppity when, Wes Anderson does animation, because he does the complete opposite of gross animation. It's pristine. It's just so amazing to look at that it makes you happy. And that's what a movie should do, is make you happy. But it's not just the animation that makes Isle of Dogs a good movie. No, the story is also phenomenal. It's just simple enough to not turn people away from watching it and committing to it, but it also has this deeper allegorical, mirroring of the Japanese internment camps in 1940 during World War II, and it's Now, I'm not going to say this is a spoiler video or anything, but if you haven't seen Isle of Dogs, you should not watch me talk about it so much in terms of plot, because you really should see it yourself and enjoy it yourself and have a real experience instead of having other people tell you what your opinions need to be in. It's Isle of Dogs' plot. Let's talk about that. The plot, in a general synopsis of Isle of Dogs, is that all of these dogs there's too many of them in Japan, and so they're like, why don't we just take all these dogs, put them somewhere else? And everybody says, yeah! This guy knows what's up. So that's what they do. They take all the dogs, they move them to Trash Island, and everybody goes, yay, dogs are gone. But then there's this group of people who's like, but we want dogs back. And then the dogs are on the island, and that's what the movie's about. Dogs being on the island, a boy comes to save his dog. You've already seen this all in the trailers. I don't need to tell it to you, but I am, because that's what I want to do, because it's my channel and I get to make decisions, and I'm a big kid. But like I said, Isle of Dogs is not all that it seems. It is much more underneath just the surface layer of what the plot shows it is. One of the most interesting things about this film is, like I mentioned earlier, the mirroring of the 1940s occurrences of Japanese Americans being put in internment camps during World War II. The film just does so many things that shows that it's mirroring it. And so if you notice this earlier on in the film, you'll have a much more enjoyable time watching it, because you see like, oh, look, it's like this is this part of history, and you realize the whole allegory of the film, and it's really interesting to watch. And that's another thing I love about Wes Anderson, is just his ability to nonstop have you wanting to watch his films every time. So moving on to animation in a more general sense, in terms of other animated movies compared to this one, and not just the way it's animated, if that makes sense. We're going to talk about animated films in general, like I said. Animated films in general, because they're usually more marketed towards kids, don't have as much depth as Isle of Dogs does, because kids aren't going to care about the allegorical mirrorings of the 1940s internments and dogs on an island. They're only going to care about those dogs on that island and how they get off and how the movie ends and how it makes them happy. That's fine. But this movie doesn't just have that. It has so much more, and that's why this movie, although it may not seem like it, is not for kids. Isle of Dogs offers so much more with all the things I've mentioned to please adults, because Wes Anderson doesn't make movies with an idea of what it's going to be rated. He doesn't make a movie with an idea of who it's going to be for. He just makes a movie that is good and then releases it, and then the world surrounds it with whatever market they think is best. And that's how movies should be made. You should never make a movie for people. You should make them for the sake of good film. As I've been talking about all of this depth that Isle of Dogs has, that's why it's not for kids, is the depth. If you take a kid to see this movie, they'd get bored. They'd be like, why is nothing happening in this movie? Why is it just dogs talking? Why isn't it dogs shooting each other with bullets out of their teeth? That actually happens, though. So go see it for that. And why aren't they dogs chewing up each other and fighting as much? Why did that only happen like 3 times? You know, kids aren't going to like Japan's internment camps in the 1940s. They don't care. All in all, to summarize Isle of Dogs, it's a very good animated film by a very good director who really knows how to please audiences, and yet it doesn't go overboard with cliches that please audiences. It does exactly what it needs to for you to like it, and it does more than the minimum for you to have a good time. With its great animation and its stellar plot and allegorical meanings, just this whole movie is really exciting to watch. It's right there at my second favorite Wes Anderson movie, right under Grand Budapest Hotel, and I've been thinking about this a lot during my review of whether or not this is an 8.5, an 8 point close to 9, or if it's even a little bit above 9, or if it's a 9 or an 8, or, you know, it's in that range, but I just don't know what it is. So here's what I'm going to do. Wes Anderson has come out with 9 theatrically released films, including this one. It would be his 9th. So you could give this movie an 8.9 out of 10, a very strong 8.9 out of 10. Or if you count short films, Wes Anderson has 12 out, so it's either an 8.9 or a 9.12 out of 10. Thank you. Go see this movie.
I won't hurt you, I won't hurt you, I won't hurt you, I won't hurt you. My pale blue star, my rainbow, how good it is to know your lightning. Strike me with your lightning, bring me down and bury me with ashes.
But then with all of this stuff of mirroring Japanese internment camps and World War II in the 40s, and racism with the dogs are the Japanese are the Americans, and everybody hates each other, and it's all a big thing. Not once, and this is the only thing that disappointed me about the film, is that not once did they use the term yaps to refer to the dogs? That's not going into the video. Nope, that's too much. Too much. Not going in.